All right, today we're unpacking the truly chilling 1996 case of four German tourists who basically vanished without a trace in the unforgiving desert. It's a story that has baffled experts for years, and it all boils down to one seemingly innocent choice. So, picture this. You're on a classic family road trip. But remember, we're talking 1996 here, so no GPS, no glowing smartphone screen giving you turn-by-turn directions. You're navigating the old-fashioned way, and suddenly you spot a dirt road that looks like a really convenient shortcut. You decide to take it, figuring you'll save a little time. It's a completely relatable scenario, right? We've all been there. But in this specific case, that single, split-second decision became a fatal error. Because what happens next is literally the stuff of nightmares. This family drove right into one of the absolutely hottest places on planet Earth. Days later, their rental minivan was discovered sitting in the middle of absolutely nowhere. Totally abandoned, the family was just gone. And for years, nobody on Earth had a clue what happened to them. This whole incredibly dark, very real mystery became known as the Death Valley Germans.
Part 1. A Dream Family Vacation. Let's set the scene. July 1996, California. A group of German tourists, 2 adults, 2 young boys, and a friend, arrive for this grand, sweeping tour of American landmarks, with Death Valley National Park being a major stop.
And there's this massive, deadly disconnect here between expectation and reality. They were probably banking on this incredible adventure filled with, beautiful desert landscapes, towering mountains, the whole romantic idea of wide-open American roads. But the reality of Death Valley? It is a lethal, extreme environment. We're talking dead cell zones, 0 water, and 0 mercy. And the danger really boils down to just one number, 120. Summer temperatures in this valley regularly skyrocket past 120 degrees Fahrenheit. That's about 49 degrees Celsius for those of you watching from outside the US. In an environment that hot, your margin for error is absolute 0. The tiniest mistake, just the slightest miscalculation, can instantly flip a fun vacation into a minute-by-minute, desperate fight to survive. Part 2. The Deadly Shortcut. The whole trajectory of this explainer pivots on one really inexplicable choice. To this day, nobody really knows why they did it. Rather than sticking to the safety of the paved road, they just veered off. They took their rented minivan onto this incredibly rough, old mining trail. And as they pushed further, the path got narrower and infinitely more dangerous. Eventually, the minivan became hopelessly stuck in the sand, leaving them stranded miles from help. No houses, no passing traffic, no phones. Just endless, baking desert surrounding them in every direction. Now get this. When investigators finally tracked down that stuck van, the mystery just blew wide open. Their food, their luggage, all of their personal belongings, it was all still sitting right there inside the vehicle. It was almost like they had just stepped out for a quick second. But the people? They were completely gone, seemingly swallowed up by the landscape itself. Part 3. The Endless Search. Once that rental van wasn't returned on time, authorities knew something was seriously wrong, and they launched a massive, absolutely desperate rescue operation. But hope faded, and I mean, it faded brutally fast. For days, helicopters are constantly buzzing over the desert. As weeks drag on, you've got ground teams painstakingly combing through these old mining roads. But then months turn into years, and the trail goes totally, completely cold. The mystery just deepened. And this absolute lack of physical evidence left everyone asking the exact same haunting question. How does an entire family vanish into thin air without leaving a single clear clue? The theories were wild. Some people held out this desperate hope that maybe the family somehow miraculously escaped the desert to start a new life. Others, well, looking at the harsh reality of that environment, they feared the absolute worst. This officially became cemented as one of America's strangest, most frustrating missing person cases. Part 4. The Grim Discovery. Now, the big break in this cold case didn't come from the official investigation, but rather years later from the sheer grit of independent searchers. Actually, it was years after the disappearance when these highly experienced volunteer searchers decided to take a totally fresh look at the puzzle. They realized there were these incredibly rugged patches of desert that had just never been fully explored during the initial sweep. By thinking critically about the terrain, they actually managed to trace the exact direction the family most likely would have walked after making that desperate call to ditch the van. And several miles from where that van was abandoned, the volunteers made a really heartbreaking discovery. They finally located human remains. And scattered right nearby were personal items that definitively matched the missing family. The evidence on the ground painted a crystal clear, completely tragic picture.
The family had, in fact, tried to walk to safety, but they were just outmatched. Out in that relentless, brutal desert heat without nearly enough water, they just didn't make it.
Part 5, the ultimate lesson. When we look closely at this tragedy, it's so clear that the desert environment wasn't the initial threat here. It was human error. Experts studying this case point out that the biggest danger to the family wasn't even the heat itself. It was the decision to take a road that looked like a harmless shortcut. Death Valley has claimed a lot of lives over the years, but this story stands out as a dark reminder that's perfectly summed up by this quote: "Nature doesn't forgive small mistakes, because sometimes the most dangerous path you can take is the one that looks completely harmless at first glance." So I'm going to leave you with a question to really chew on. Put yourself in their shoes for a second. If you were stranded miles from literally anywhere, trapped in that unforgiving 120-degree heat with barely any supplies, what would you have done? Would you have stayed with the van praying someone eventually drove by, or would you have risked it all to walk for help? Let me know your answer down in the comments. And hey, if you enjoy these clear, structured explainers of true mysteries, make sure to hit subscribe, because our next explainer is even more unbelievable.